Barony, a game.
I've played it.
A lifestyle, an amazing way to raise your blood pressure. At first glance, Barony appears to be a highly detailed boulder death simulator masquerading as an RPG dungeon crawler. But in reality, it's a game about becoming God. Because regardless of whatever class you pick,
vampire, eugenicist, retard,
you are now on a quest to become an omniscient mega wizard doctor engineer hybrid who spends his time levitating, being invisible, transcending the need for food, and throwing ducks at people. And I have to tell you, it's all very fun. However, I seek a more pure experience. I crave the strength and certainty of capitalism. Because today, we'll be playing the game as the world's strongest merchant, Shmuley Goldstein. And by exercising extreme fiscal responsibility and indentured servitude, we will attempt to survive 35 floors of monsters to defeat the final boss and win the game. But first, hypothetical situation. It's 9 PM and you're competitively shitposting on Twitter. After a long night of calling people subhuman trash, you head to bed for some much-needed rest. However, you wake up in the middle of the night to find a mostly naked Romanian man standing at the foot of your bed. Dear God, it's Furry Master 914. He must have tracked your IP address and found your house. You're petrified with fear as he approaches you, puts a gun in your mouth, and apathetically asks, "Are you ready to see God?" Wild guess, but I don't think he's going to take no for an answer. This is bad, but it all could have been prevented with the sponsor of today's video, ExpressVPN. This is, without question, one of the best virtual private network services on the market. But don't take it from me, take it from all of these people that you don't know. ExpressVPN will ensure your online privacy and data security by encrypting and rerouting your network traffic through their high-speed servers. That means no more worrying about your data being sold, and of course, no more unexpected late-night visitors. Me personally, I use ExpressVPN all the time to access region-locked content by changing my IP address. In fact, I do it so much that I'm having an identity crisis. Am I Reggie Games, the Canadian YouTuber, or am I Hong Kong Fooey, a Nigerian man binge-watching Breaking Bad? I don't know, and neither will they. Find out how you can get up to 4 extra months of ExpressVPN by clicking the link in the description, scanning the QR code, or going to expressvpn.com/Reggie. With plans starting at $349 a month and a 30-day money-back guarantee, you've got nothing to lose. Thank you, ExpressVPN. Now back to the video. Our first choice to make is our race and class. We've got plenty of options, ranging from a homeless mushroom man all the way to demonic BDSM enjoyer. However, we're going to play as the most insidious of them all, the gnome. Gnomes are renowned for being short and killing me on level 3. You piece of shit. But they do have some upsides. For instance, the more wealth they hoard, the higher their mana regeneration goes, which makes them an excellent fit for the merchant, a class that focuses on trading and becoming rich. So with that figured out, it's time for Shmuley Goldstein to make his debut. It all starts here in the mines on level 1. We've got a hatchet, a pickaxe, and several pieces of cheese. This might sound pretty good to you, but that's because you don't realize level 1 is the hardest level in the entire game. Traditional game design would dictate that difficulty should ramp up slowly as you progress, but the Barony developers believe that the weak should fear the strong, and they make that clear very quickly. Try fighting more than one rat at a time, you're dead. Equip a funny necklace, you're dead. Try brewing some health potions, not a chance. Finally, try standing perfectly still, and you're still dead. Given that, we proceed through floor 1 very carefully, utilizing stealth attacks as much as possible while doing our best to loot everything we can get our hands on. Rather insultingly, one of the first items the game offers us is an oversized jester's hat, and the second one is a hand mirror. So not only will the entire world know we're a clown, but now we'll know it too. However, Shmuley J. Goldstein will not be made a fool. By the end of this video, he will become a god. And he will also keep this hat because it gives +1 charisma. Proceeding through the floor, we fight our way past several rodents, reanimated skeletons, and anyone stupid enough to trust us. You see, in order to increase our character level, we have to increase our individual skills. And unfortunately for everyone else, most of them involve killing people. So there are no friends, there are no neutral parties, just ambulatory experience points waiting to be harvested. This is the necessary mindset of the XP Maximizer. By the time we finished looting floor 1, we made it to level 5 and picked up a few useful spell books. For example, this one summons a floating pickaxe to lobotomize your enemies with. Very nice. Soon, the people will have to take us seriously. Proceeding through the hatch to floor 2, we are immediately greeted with the Barony equivalent of being told to go fuck ourselves. This flashing symbol indicates that in about 2 minutes, a 40-foot tall minotaur will spawn onto the map and pulverize us. Clearly, the difficulty curve is working as intended. So, wasting no time, we begin darting around the map in a desperate attempt to grab some loot and locate the exit before it's too late. Eventually, we come across this locked stone tower, which is exactly what we want. This is the entrance to a secret level, and by pulling these 2 levers, we open up the gate and make our escape just before the Minotaur has a chance to perform a hate crime on us. We have now entered the most infamous level in the entire game, the Gnomish Mines. This is a massive labyrinthian map populated by treasure, highly dangerous trolls, and dozens of gnomes. This might sound like a safe place for us since we are also gnomes, but let me tell you something. In this world, there is nothing gnomes hate more than other gnomes. So we begin exploring the mines very carefully, making sure to use hit-and-run tactics to slowly whittle down our enemies. Technically, we could leave at any time. The exit is right there, but we've got 3 things we need to do before that. First objective, kill some locals and use their pickaxes to mine as many resources as possible. This place is absolutely stuffed with gold, and I'll be damned if we leave behind even a single nugget. I know what you're thinking, Reggie, that's going to take forever, but don't worry, we've got a secret weapon, this almost useless piece of fabric. When a normal person equips a blindfold, they will have a hard time playing the game, but when we, a filthy gnome, equip the blindfold, we enter a state of sensory deprivation, which heightens our natural affinity for precious metals and allows us to literally smell every piece of gold in a 2-mile radius. Using this technique, we were able to track down every gold deposit in this godforsaken mine. Now that we've got some cash, we make our way to the top right corner of the map, where we find a fellow enjoyer of the free market. This is a shopkeeper, and he is our only friend in this cold, dark dungeon. Now here's the strategy. We buy everything he's got. Doesn't matter if it's trash. The simple act of purchasing it levels up our trading skill, which levels us up as a character. Then we sell all that stuff back to him and buy more stuff. Technically, we are losing money on these transactions, but think of it like an investment. Because if we can max out our trading skill, we will earn the ability to sell anything to shopkeepers, even valuable gems. And that is where the real money is. By the time we were done executing this technique, we managed to grind out 4 levels and get our trading skill up to 75. Additionally, the shopkeeper sold us a new shield and 2 pairs of steel anti-gravity boots. Normal steel boots weigh around 40 kilograms, but these ones weigh 80 kilograms less, making them atmospherically buoyant. This is important because our weight affects our speed, and in Barony there is no easier target than a morbidly obese man who has immobilized himself under the weight of his own gluttony. Now let's move on to our last objective. In the bottom right corner of the map is a legendary spellcasting helmet guarded by a series of highly dangerous booby traps. Wow guys, very impressive trap room you've got here. Be a real shame if I had 7 pickaxes in my inventory. With the traps disarmed, we are now free to grab the Sphinx's Cask. Sporting +8 intellect and +3 armor, this helmet is basically our best in slot for the rest of the game. Now all that's left for us to do is finish exploring the map and get out of here. This took about an hour, so I'll give you the highlights. 20 minutes running around electrocuting gnomes, 20 minutes finding more treasure, and 20 minutes creating a minimum wage labor force. That last one is very important, so listen closely. As a gnome, no one wants to be our friend. This isn't a political take, it's an observation. Because every time I talk with an NPC, they try to stab me. So our only option is to deceive them into compliance by manipulating the currency. What we do is run around until we find these piece of shit rocks worth $1. Then we cast a magic spell on it and suddenly it's valuable because we said so. Then we take those artificially monetized items and beam them off people's head to convince them to work for us. Congratulations, we have now established established our own fiat money system, but way worse, because this ain't even fractional banking. In fact, it's not banking at all. You're gonna work for Shmuley Goldstein until you die. You're a lightning staff gnome that fights enemies from afar? Very cool. But the second that staff runs out of charges, I will be sending you to the front lines to fistfight a troll. And when you inevitably perish, I will be selling all of your personal belongings to the nearest pawn shop. Point is, with this technique, we were able to enlist a small posse of delinquents to act as our bodyguards. In fact, we even got really lucky and recruited a succubus. This is terrific because the succubus can seduce units into joining our party even if we're already at the party size limit. I thought this would be pretty good. However, as we will soon find out, it is completely broken. Regardless, we're all done in the mines, so let's get back to the dungeon. The next 2 levels of the dungeon were a deeply confusing experience. Within 60 seconds, I found a book on how to be an alpha male, found a necklace that literally chops my dick off, and then to balance it all out, I almost got killed by a boulder. After that, we wandered around in a daze while our followers beat the shit out of everyone on the map. I didn't tell them to do that, they just inherently know I want it, which is what makes them good followers. Eventually, we came across a series of merchants, at which point I was obligated to spend an hour min-maxing our trading skill to appease my compulsive desire for number go up. Here's the summary. We added 4 more anti-gravity boots to our collection, grabbed an alembic to allow us to practice alchemy, and most importantly, we maxed out our trading skill. All of this landed us at 7,000 gold, which bumped us up a tax bracket into wealth level 3. Not bad. All of this was done just in time for the next secret level, Mine Town. Barely a town, and certainly not a mine, Mine Town is actually a religious site for members of the free market. That's because it has 4 shopkeepers and plenty of what I call free resources. If you're playing one of those non-capitalist slop classes, you probably won't care about this level, but for us, this is huge. But Reggie, how can I maximize my Mine Town experience? Well, I'll tell you. First things first, buy a tinkering kit. This allows us to deconstruct pretty much anything and use the scraps to craft quirky items like landmines and bear traps. Then we start luring innocent people into secluded parts of the map and killing them. We sell half their stuff to the merchants and use tinkering to turn the other half into glass bottles. With these, we can now destroy the plumbing system by draining every last drop of water into our bottles, which we then use to level up our alchemy skill. After about 20 minutes of this, all civilians should be dead and the entire town will be experiencing a catastrophic drought. That's a good start, but we can go even further. We use an obscure magic spell to level up our mysticism by breaking every piece of furniture on the map. No chairs, no beds, only experience points. Then we use our tinkering kit to systematically deconstruct all of the torches. Now that the town has been plunged into darkness, we can turn the torches into bear traps and place them randomly in the street for good measure. This is what it means to become ungovernable. Now that we have honored Mine Town by extracting every single experience point from it, we can move on. This brings us to a transitory level. These are basically free treasure levels that we get when moving from one biome to another. However, do not mistake that for meaning that they're safe. I have personally witnessed grown men cleaved in half by cleverly placed mimics on more than one occasion. But that's okay, because we didn't need that guy, and what we're really here for is something much worse. By mining through this skull-shaped wall, we can reveal a secret portal to the Underworld. Going here is not something I recommend to 99% of players, because the baseline requirement for even surviving is being able to fly. Luckily, not long ago, we picked up some boots of levitation from a merchant. Therefore, problem solved. But why do we even care about the Underworld? Well, I'll tell you. It's because deep within the Underworld, there is a demonic shade known as Artemisia, who wields the legendary bow Chrysolakatos. So the plan is, go to hell with the boys, beat the ever-living shit out of Artemisia, take the bow, and be back in time for supper. Upon entering the portal, we are immediately greeted by the Minotaur warning sign, something which would have terrified us about 3 hours ago, but now we're ready. For one, we've got a couple of followers, and for two, we've used our alembic to craft 9 Molotov cocktails. So the second that big dumb lobotomite came charging toward us, we dumped half a dozen explosive potions on him, and he promptly turned to ash. Killing the Minotaur was a big milestone, a rite of passage, if you will. Shmuley Goldstein will no longer be molested by the circumstances of this world. Now, he molests back. With that taken care of, we finally encounter Artemisia. She hits very hard, but with the help of our followers, we're able to beat her mercilessly until she gives up and drops the bow. When picking up new gear, you have to first identify it, and the amount of time it takes to identify something depends on how good it is. G String of Hepatitis, 5 seconds. Ring of Might, maybe 30 seconds. But Legendary Bow Chrysolacatos, 7 goddamn minutes. However, it was worth the wait, because this bow does 6 damage, never degrades, has a chance to enchant our arrows, and after repairing it, we even got the damage bumped up to 11. So a lot of people are going to start dying. While looking for our next victim, we came across a unique character named Robin Hood. At first, I was thinking about recruiting him by shoving a fistful of gemstones up his nose, but then I remembered his entire identity is based around robbing rich people. So obviously, we put a generational beating on him and recycled all of his clothes into landmines. With that taken care of, we finally escaped the Underworld and returned to the dungeon, just in time to enter the next biome, the Swamp. If you gave me the option of being shot in the head or spending 5 minutes in the swamp, I'd tell you not to miss. Because not only is the swamp teeming with goblins and slime monsters, but they've tripled the defense budget, and there's traps everywhere. Regardless, we push forward, painstakingly exploring every corner of the map in search of treasure, and we found it in the form of spellbooks. Objectively speaking, swamp spellbooks are the most fun. Not because they're useful, but because they're literally designed to troll your teammates in co-op. For instance, we found the Spellbook of Confusion, which can be repeatedly cast on your friend to invert their controls and give them motion sickness. Once your friend realizes you're griefing him into bulimia, he'll probably try to attack you back, which is when you're going to cast Grease to lather him in oil and make him drop his weapon anytime he tries to use it. Maybe for good measure, you'll also cast Ignite to kill him in a horrible grease fire. This is the essence of male bonding in Barony. Unfortunately, Kleeper stopped returning my messages, so we had to settle for griefing the local goblins instead. However, all of this dicking around did come at a cost, because it takes a long time to explore each floor, and starvation is slowly creeping up on us. For the past hour, we've been surviving on a diet of greasy tins of food, but by this point, we've completely run out, and we're starting to take hunger damage. Many a promising run has been cut short due to poor food management, but Shmuley Goldstein refuses to die with anything less than 100,000 pieces of gold to his name. So we push through the pain. Eventually, we hit a lucky break where, after finding a series of chests, one of them tried to kill us, only for us to explode him like a piñata and feast upon his innards. The chest was full of cheese, cream pies, and more industrial-grade slop, which should keep us running for the next few levels. Probably the only other important development during our time in the swamp was that our succubus started recruiting tons of new allies. In fact, she even managed to recruit a legendary zombie named Coral Grimes. He's very powerful, and he also has 3 of his own followers, so our party is now 7 or 8 people despite having a follower cap of 4. Our time in the swamp came to an end when we stumbled upon a portal to the haunted castle. As with any secret level, this is an exceptionally dangerous place with exceptionally valuable loot. Our first order of business was to make our way inside the castle. It is here where we will find tons of gold and some legendary boots. But the second we touch anything, 25 zombies are going to rise from the dead and try to kill us. So some preparations are necessary. We start by covering the castle entrance with bear traps and a thick layer of grease. After that, we brew a few Molotov cocktails, get everyone in position, and grab the legendary boots in order to start the show. Almost immediately, the first wave of zombies was upon us, rushing down the entrance, only to find themselves thoroughly lubed up and dicked down. After healing up the troops, we pushed out of the keep to start the zombie extermination process. I was expecting this to be the hardest part, but to my surprise, our succubus just charmed every zombie we came across, and within 30 seconds, our party had doubled in size. We are now commanding a small-scale undead army, which we were able to use to slowly clear out the rest of the map and grab all of the loot. Notable finds include a shitload of gold and a spellbook of Remove Curse. Being being able to remove curses is high-level utility magic, because at least half of the spellbooks in this game are cursed, and if you try to read from a cursed spellbook, it literally lobotomizes you. Thankfully, we won't have to worry about that any longer. We were also able to increase our tinkering to level 80, which means we can now craft the single greatest item in the entire game, a leather backpack. I'm not exaggerating when I say that I spend 30 minutes on each floor just managing my inventory, and with this backpack we've now got an extra 10 slots to work with. Naturally, I filled it up with our anti-gravity boots, which turned it into something approximating a giant helium balloon attached to our back. With all of that taken care of, it's now time for us to proceed to the next biome, the Sand Labyrinth. This area is known for its absolutely massive labyrinthian maps filled with bug people. Fortunately, we've maxed out our leadership stat, and the game tells us we should now be able to recruit them. Excited by this prospect, I walked straight up to one, attempted to shake his hand, and instead got stabbed in the face. So I guess that was just a fucking lie. Welcome to the Sand Labyrinth. The majority of our time here was spent doing this. The only reason we didn't starve to death was because we found a ring of slow digestion and a sweetgrass sprig. Both of these items together form a very powerful anti-starvation build, which reduces our hunger rate to somewhere around 30%. This gave us plenty of time to dick around and also encounter one of my favorite NPCs in the entire game, the Potato King. He's a goblin with a jester hat, suspenders, a beard, and a certain indescribable aura. So naturally, I equipped my nicest gem, ran straight up to him, and threw it at his face in an attempt to recruit him. Unfortunately, we must be at our follower limit, because it didn't work and a giant fight broke out, at which point I was forced to execute him with blood magic. Killing the Potato King felt like strangling my own father to death in the pouring rain. It was emotionally devastating. But rather than confronting those feelings like a man, or God forbid, going to therapy about it,
You know what? Fuck you.
I just forced one of my other followers to equip his clothes, thereby turning him into a replacement Potato King. And just like that, it's almost as if it never happened. However, we decided to keep one thing for ourselves, the Potato King's legendary mace, Sharur. If all of the legendary weapons in Barony were internet users, Sharur would be the Redditor, because it is obnoxiously quirky and refuses to shut up. So much like a Redditor, we ignore it. The only reason we put up with this in the first place is for the special ability. While we have this mace equipped, it increases our mana regeneration, and that effect scales dramatically as our mace skill goes up. So over time, we can double or even triple our mana regen. For a piece of shit spellcaster like us, that is incredibly valuable. At this point, I feel our D&D style party has finally come into view. We've got Shmooly Goldstein, the financial wizard, Succubus, the goon farmer, Coral Grimes, the Death Knight, and Potato King II. Between the four of us, I like our odds, so our party pushed through the Sand Labyrinth and even completed 2 secret levels in the process. Long story short, we made a shitload of money and killed a Minotaur in order to take his legendary spear. With the Sand Labyrinth complete, we can now proceed to the ruins. If we can make it through this biome, we'll finally reach the first boss, Baron Herx. Now in terms of trap density, the ruins is on par with central Poland, because these fuckers are everywhere. Fortunately, we have amassed an impressive collection of spells, and we've got one specifically for disarming traps. So it doesn't matter if you've spent all day carefully placing turrets and floor spikes. Shmooly Goldstein is going to spawn onto the map, pop a speed buff, and fly around systematically disassembling all of your shitty little traps until you're all alone. And God help you when you're all alone. With the traps out of the way, our followers are free to engage the dozens of gnomish gangs that inhabit the map. Most Barony fights occur on the scale of 1v1 or maybe 2v2 combat, but these brawls were easily 30-person bloodbaths. Most of the locals did not survive, but some were smart enough to bend the knee and join our party. Thanks to this, our party size easily increased to around 25 people. We were recruiting everyone, even inanimate objects. Nothing was safe from the Goldstein Industrial Complex. In terms of looting, we were able to secure a few very nice spell books, such as Psychic Spear, which does a massive damage, and also the Spell of Preservation, which prevents our gear from degrading as long as we've got enough mana. This is huge because some incredibly powerful items, such as Amulets of Magic Reflection, are balanced only by the fact that they can degrade. But now we can just ignore that and become immune to all magic indefinitely. I'm not going to lie, this build is getting absolutely filthy. Building off of that, we were able to find a merchant and push our gold reserves past 20k, which puts us at level 4 wealth with a massive 40% buff to mana regen. In terms of spellcasting, we are rapidly approaching a god level sorcerer. There's just one more place we need to visit to solidify our status: the Mystic Library. Proceeding through a secret portal, we arrive there. The magical archive containing some of the strongest spells in the game, and also several people we can murder for the crime of existing. A wise man once said, "You should have a plan to kill everyone you meet." And that's fair, but personally I prefer an improvisational jazz mindset when it comes to these things. A little gang beating here, a couple of fireballs there, and maybe a few dozen acid potions for good measure. There's really no wrong answers. After we finished converting the local populace into funny numbers on our XP bar, we took our time pilfering the archives. Notable finds include a spell of Vampiric Aura, Greater Might, and the best one was a tier 5 spell that drops a comet on your enemies. Very tasteful. With all of that taken care of, we're now ready to proceed to the first boss of the game, Baron Herx. His Wikipedia page describes him as an evil tyrant of low moral standing. But personally, the more I read, the more I like this guy, so we'll put him down nice and easy. Arriving on floor 25, Herx's arena comes into view. Just beyond this point lies Shmuley's greatest challenge yet, which is why we're going to utilize our ultimate technique, casting spin on him like 500 times to centrifuge his brain into a slurry of gray matter, at which point he will die. So we enter the arena, spawn Baron Herx, and blast him with a spin spell, only for absolutely nothing to happen. Dear God, he's immune to being spun. At this point, we've got no other option. If we can't turn your brain to mush with shitty magic spells, we're going to have to do it the old-fashioned way. So I called in our 25 followers and had them curb stomp his skull relentlessly. Truly, the most dignified death we could offer to a fellow capitalist. With that taken care of, we open an escape portal and head to the nearby hamlet, where the townsfolk are celebrating our heroic victory. The hamlet is one of the few levels that is actually intended to be purely peaceful. Everyone is celebrating our victory, the shopkeepers are all very kind, and generally, it's a good time. Which is why we are morally obligated to kill everyone here. Just as the blank canvas taunts the budding artist, so too does the peaceful hamlet taunt the serial-killing capitalist. And so, it's time we make our first brushstroke. The reason the hamlet is so peaceful is because everyone here is absolutely jacked. It's full of high-level adventurers, and every shopkeeper is at least as strong as Baron Herx. Furthermore, no merchant in their right mind would dare attack a shopkeeper, because if we do, we'll get banned from trading with them for the rest of the game. And therein lies the problem. We have to kill all of these people without even touching them, which is why we're going to convince them to kill each other. A few levels back, while we were looting, we came across one very special item. It's called the Ring of Conflict, and whenever you put it on, it turns the surrounding area into Memphis, Tennessee, because everyone near you will start stabbing and shooting each other indiscriminately. I think you can see where this is going, so let's test it out. First, we take all of our followers and sequester them to a corner of the map where they can avoid the coming civil war. Then we find a shop with 2 traders. I make sure to sell a bunch of our stuff to them first because we want their money. And don't worry, we'll be getting most of it back in about 5 minutes. After that, we drink an invisibility potion and hide in the cuck corner. Now we slip on our Ring of Conflict and watch the show. This process takes a very long time, but eventually one of the shopkeepers will explode into a million pieces and drop their inventory. Once that happens, we take off the ring, grab all of the loot, sell it to the other shopkeeper, and move on to our next target. The hard part about this method is that much like political streamers, the shopkeepers have to make eye contact to know that they want to kill each other. So sometimes you have to play a bit of matchmaker, but generally it works quite well. Using this, we were able to turn the hamlet into an active war zone. I'm talking gangland killings in the street, dozens of armed robberies, and shopkeeper on shopkeeper violence. chance. Since we were invisible for most of this, no one ever caught us, except for one man, the Invincible Cleric. Now, the moniker Invincible can go one of two ways. Either this guy is being ironic and he actually sucks, or he's about to anally devastate us in the middle of the street. Unfortunately for our colon, this case was the latter. Despite being incredibly powerful in our own right, our attacks don't even affect him. In fact, at one point, we were getting stomped so badly that one of our followers jumped in to help, at which point the cleric literally beat him to death with his bare hands. All I could do was watch. The only way we were able to stop him was to just wail on his armor until slowly each individual piece was destroyed, at which point we finally started damaging him. Once we put him down, we were free to finish killing everyone and selling their inventory to the only remaining shopkeeper. By the time we were done, we had accumulated about 50,000 gold, which put us halfway to my personal dream of 100k. Now for the final touch, we head to the sewers where we encounter the secret merchant, who is either the worst judge of character I have ever seen or the most subversive comic of all time, because he greets us by saying that he loves exploiting people for money, but he can tell that we have too much of a heart to do something like that ourselves. Ah yes, I couldn't agree more. Anyway, we trade a few items to him, exit the hamlet, and head into the crystal mines. This biome is where shit gets real. No more estrogen maxing goblin femboys. It's all pain and suffering from here on out. But that's okay, because as the saying goes, hard times make strong men make good times make weak men, and weak men make me hard. So let's get a move on. Proceeding through the caves, there are exactly two things we have to watch out for: crystal golems and the cockatrice. Either of these monsters could easily kill us given the chance, and after being here for only 10 minutes, we're already down 7 party members. Furthermore, we're experiencing a minor crisis. Barony is one of those really quirky games that decided it would be fun if money weighed you down, and now the cumulative weight of our 50,000 gold coins has rendered us almost completely immobile. The logical solution would be to just drop the gold, but much like a monkey trapped in the jar, I would sooner die than release even a single ounce of this hard-earned wealth. So I resign myself to dragging my body across the floor like some kind of human slug. I did this for all of 2 minutes before realizing that at this rate we will certainly starve to death, which is why we're now resorting to Go-Go Gadget Magic Mobility Scooter, also known as the Speed Buff. We picked up this spell a few hours ago, and now it's the only thing keeping us from fusing into the floor. With our mobility issues temporarily fixed, we push deeper into the mines, at which point the fighting intensifies. Despite our new spells, we just can't kill these freaks fast enough, and our followers are paying the price. Coral Grimes beat to death by a golem, and worse yet, our succubus ripped apart by a cockatrice. Truly a dark day for capitalists everywhere. They're leaving us one by one, abandoning Shmooly in his hour of need. But you know what never left us? The gold. The gold doesn't betray us by getting torn to pieces in a dimly lit mine shaft. The gold loves us, and we love the gold. I worship the gold, I talk to the gold, and of course, I make love to the gold. In exchange, we are rewarded, because as we fumble our way through the dungeon, we come across the single greatest item for our class, the Golden Mask. I don it, and immediately feel a jolt of electricity course through my body, from the top of my head to the tip of my you-know-what. We have reached our final form. As you listen to my erotic Scrooge McDuck-style fanfiction, you're probably wondering what's so good about this mask. Well, I'll tell you. It gives us a 50% weight reduction to all gold in our inventory. That means no more mobility scooter. We can finally walk like a normal human being. But we can go even further. By combining our blank scrolls with this enchanted feather, we are able to bless the mask. After doing this twice, the mask now reduces our gold weight by 150%. So not only is our enormous sack of gold not weighing us down, but in fact, it's actually lifting us up and offsetting the weight of everything else in our inventory. So the more gold we hoard, the less we weigh and the faster we become. This is Merchant Apotheosis. Perhaps sensing that we were getting a little too cocky, the game decided to humble us by having me fight an incubus. We almost died here because these little bastards use confusion spells that invert all of your controls. Left becomes right, up is down, and basically go fuck yourself. It's quite disorienting, but after surviving that, we picked up the pace, speedrunning the next few floors and acquiring a couple more spells such as Portal of Teleportation and Void Chest. Teleportation is self-explanatory. You've got an intricately booby-trapped treasure room protected by several locked doors. I think I'll just phase through the wall, grab all the stuff, take a shit in the middle of the room, and leave. As fun as that is, Void Chest is even better, because it allows us to convert any treasure chest into cloud storage, which we can use to hold our most valuable items until we need to sell them. You are now living in a world where the global currency is produced, issued, and stored by a single magical gnome who is openly a violent and sadistic serial killer with near godlike superpowers. Every member of the World Economic Forum is currently having a painful erection at the very thought of this new world order. The only thing left for us to do here is to visit the cockatrice's lair. Not because I want to go there. In fact, it's absolutely fucking dreadful. But it has a lot of money, so skipping it was never an option. The tricky thing about this level is that it has a high density of enemies. This is easily solved by equipping our Ring of Domestic Abuse and then listening through the walls as our enemies beat each other to death. After that, I toss on a speed buff, rush into the room, and use a paralysis spell to incapacitate the survivors while we beat them to death with a mallet. Using this high-level problem-solving technique, we were able to clear out the entire dungeon and secure some highly valuable loot, namely this legendary chest piece and a tier 5 magic spell known as Waves of Blood. This is by far the strongest offensive spell we have access to, and while it does cost us 20% of our health, it costs our enemies 100% of theirs, so I approve. Moving into the final room, we just have to survive a solo battle against the cockatrice himself. We entered the room with an invisibility ring on, so the cockatrice can't see us. However, it can definitely see the guy right next to us. I'm not going to lie, this battle was not the stuff of legends. In fact, it was actually kind of embarrassing. But eventually, we found success running around like a dickhead and spamming Psychic Spear until we won. With that finished, we can finally head to the last biome of the game, the Citadel. In terms of level design, the Citadel is a sprawling monument to the very concept of an identity crisis. There are hidden rooms with nothing in them, sometimes there's no floor, sometimes there's goats, oh look, we're doing steampunk now, and finally we have vampires. It's all a bit overwhelming, but all things considered, we're coping with it pretty well. During our time in the Citadel, the trend of watching all of our friends die continued relentlessly. At this point, all we've got left is this blue Power Ranger and a couple of gay guys. While I do miss the succubus, I cannot deny that this is objectively a better fit for the channel. Also, it's probably worth pointing out, but by this point, Shmuley Goldstein has become an absolute cannonball of a man. This is as thick and juicy as you can get before getting sued by Games Workshop, and I love it. Proceeding floor by floor, we acquired a few solid pieces of loot while also realizing the full power of Waves of Blood. At first, I was skeptical about this spell because it costs a ton of health to cast, but when you wipe out an entire hallway full of people with it, you can no longer deny that this is the universal answer to all of your problems, because it will either kill the problems or it'll kill you. Speaking of which, we also developed a pretty bad habit of leveling up our alchemy by drinking unidentified potions. This resulted in several instances of us being drunk, being blind, horribly confused, and dissolving our intestines with acid. But that's okay. At its heart, alchemy always has been an exploration of the unknown. So you could just sit there identifying these potions with your scientific tools like some kind of pervert, or you could be a real man by chugging this unidentified sludge which will cause you to go deaf. The choice is yours. Other than that, we killed a few minotaurs, stepped on a series of clearly visible bear traps, fought a shadow version of ourselves and won, and then liquidated the contents of our safety deposit box to expand our wealth into the six-figure territory. Truly, there is nothing left for us but to defeat the final boss, and so we proceed to the final level. Here is where we will find the deplorable sorcerers Orpheus and Eurydice. They're not deplorable because they're evil, they're deplorable because they're not evil enough. So obviously we have to kill them. But first, we need to establish the stack. In the bodybuilding community, the stack refers to the combined list of drugs which you can abuse before you turn yellow and die. In Barony, it refers to the cumulative list of buffs which we can put on ourselves to ascend into a low-level superhuman. First, we've got invisibility, levitation, increased strength, and magic reflection from our gear. Then we start stacking on the magic spells. Preservation to keep our armor intact, guard spirit to absorb attacks, thorns to deal damage back, envenom weapon for added damage, flame cloak for immunity to fire, and finally, speed to run around at 90 miles per hour. We could go into this fight and just gang up on them with our followers like we did last time, or we could even just abuse waves of blood to end this in like 10 seconds. But I am a man of theatrics, which is why I decided to spend this entire video, 12 hours, quietly accumulating an inventory full of explosive flame traps. And now I'm putting 100 of them down on the floor in the boss room. I can't tell you who's going to step on this, but I can tell you they won't be having an open casket funeral. Now, let's begin. We go a little further into the arena, at which point the bosses spawn, and so begins the elaborate dance of trying to bait one of them into stepping on our Afghanistan welcome mat. Eventually, we do succeed. Orpheus rushes into the landmines face first and explodes into a million pieces. Meanwhile, the resulting trauma of seeing her partner blown to smithereens sent Eurydice into some kind of manic episode. So, much like a 1940s doctor, I remedy her hysteria by beating her with a blunt object. Unfortunately, this doesn't work so well, and she summons in several minions to kill us. We immobilize them with a series of ice waves and firewalls, and then return our attention to Eurydice, blasting her with waves of blood and an entire meteor shower, until her and all of her stupid followers are vanquished back to the abyss from which they came. And with that, Shmuley Goldstein, the paragon of capitalism and destroyer of evil, has vanquished Orpheus and Eurydice for the crime of something. I'm not actually sure what they do lore-wise, but I bet it's bad. You know what, editor? Just put them in the Epstein files. There we go. And just like that, we're back on the right side of history. Well, that's going to be it for this video. We've gone from rags to riches to demigod omniscience, and I think you can't ask for much more from the free market. So thank you to this month's patrons for supporting the channel, and finally, thank you for watching.